It's August. It's a full week of August. And if you're in Texas, you know it because of the blistering heat. It is just hot. 106 or something like that last night. Good grief. But we do have some good news about Texas. And there's one piece of bad news. But for the most part, guys, let's get into it. The good news about rates is that they're still coming down, but not this week. So they're sitting in that mid six, high six, however you want to call it. You guys can see the last 4 days, we've given back the gains, the really big gain we had. But still, positive. The trend is our friend, right? We're still moving up. So I think, and I hope we're going to hold these levels. I think we may go sideways here for a moment, but the reality is, I think the trend's our friend. I think refinances are coming. Some of you may have already started. I would say, obviously, reach out to us if you guys have any questions. We can run that. But at the end of the day, rates are better, but not this week. And that's okay. But we're getting there. So why did they move? Well, last week when we did this update, it was on Thursday before the Friday's job reports. Job reports were no bueno, and that's good for us. So weaker economy, less jobs, unfortunately, as unemployment goes up, that gives the Fed the ability to then cut rates because their job is to keep a dual mandate. They need to keep unemployment low, but they also need to watch inflation. So with unemployment rising, they can then say, okay, we need to cut rates to help the economy so that unemployment is stable and doesn't get out of control. So the interesting part is that now, the next meeting in September, the Fed now supposedly is about a 75 to 80% chance of cutting not just one cut, but two, meaning 50 basis points or half a cut. So let me say that again. It's about an 80% chance, give or take, because the numbers keep changing, but an 80% chance that the Fed's going to make a half a point cut in September. That's drastically different than just a few weeks ago. So because of that job report, some of the new data that's coming out, they're thinking it could be a pretty big cut in September. So the refinances are coming. Remember, guys, the Fed does not control the long-term 30-year mortgage, but they certainly correlate. So just keep that in mind. I would absolutely say reach out to us if you've started the process or think we've been telling folks, let's just be patient. We think it's coming, but don't get too excited yet. And we think it's coming. But here's what I think is more interesting as far as buyers are concerned. This bottom right graph is listings, like inventory, available homes to buy. So if you guys look, that graph, it goes all the way back to 2016, give or take 2017, all the way through now. And this is from July of 2024. So last month. But you guys can look, we are almost 30%, 29% lower inventory, meaning housing shortage, compared to pre-COVID. So you guys can see July of 2019, it was way up there. We're 30% as a country. What's interesting is that there are only 4 states where inventory is actually higher than it was back in July of 2019. Texas is number 1. We have 6.5% more inventory than we did back in July of 2019, pre-COVID. We actually have more inventory. But here's the catch, which you don't see in the headlines, right? Because the headlines are going to say more inventory, inventory's up, and there's a glut, and there's bubble coming. The population in Texas has held steady. 6.5% more inventory, 6.5% more population. And the Texas, Idaho, Florida, Tennessee, these states do not have income tax. So it stands to reason that people are going to still keep coming here. So while it may feel like, there's too much inventory because you're selling your home and you have to wait, 60 to 90 days, that's a relatively balanced market, guys. I know as a seller, you'd rather have 17 people showing up on your doorstep on day one, but the reality is it's a balanced and healthy market. So it's interesting that, 46 states all have lower inventory and there is a housing shortage for them. But Texas, God bless us, and that's good because that will help keep costs from just going crazy because the supply and demand kicks in. A shortage of housing means more and more people are going to make offers. So if we can keep the inventory up a little bit as rates come down, more people are going to come out and buy the home. So I know it's a long time on this slide, but I think it's super important because those active listings kind of tell you what's going to be here because already just in the last 2 weeks, we've seen an influx of interest and people coming out of the woodwork saying, hey, let's get the loan application dusted off, my pre-qual dusted off because they are now more interested that rates are back down in the 6s and trending lower. So Dallas property taxes last year, this hurts us for affordability, went up 8.5%. That's wild. I know mine did, and it stinks. I don't like it. It is what it is. So again, it doesn't help the Dallas affordability. So what's interesting is that Texas has 9 of the 10 fastest growing cities in the country. You guys can see the chart over on the right, most of them in North Texas. You got Austin, San Antonio area, and then you got, Houston area, but 9 out of 10 base, or what is that? 8 out of 10, 7 out of 10, pardon me. 6 out of 9, I beg your pardon. 6 out of 9 are North Texas. So that, again, a lot of folks are coming here, and that's good, but that's why our builders need to keep building. So when inventory is up, that's okay. We have a growth that can sustain that. The 10 fastest declining U.S. cities, shockingly, Big Spring is leading number 1 in Texas. If you don't know it, I put it on the map. I had to Google it for you. I actually knew where it was, believe it or not. It's out there kind of in the West Texas, Midland, Odessa area. Don't know why. I don't know anybody from Big Spring to call them up and say what's going on, but that to me just was interesting. So there you go. It's the fastest declining U.S. city. 10 worst states to retire. This is where Texas, unfortunately, is on the list at number 9. Worst place to retire. And you guys can see the percentages of how, they calculated. This is from USA Today article I saw, but it's affordability, well-being, cost of healthcare, weather. Right now, August, 10%. I get the weather, man. That should be like 30% in the summer when it's 106. So Texas, not great here. And here's another one. Not yet. Sorry, one after this. But the highest IQs, Texas is right there. That's fine. But Massachusetts win. My initial joke before I even read the article was, they got Harvard and MIT. Well, it turns out, the median income or for what they spend on their education, it's $5,000. It's 17 grand total, but they spend $5,000 more. That's like 30% more on their students' schooling more than anybody else. So good for you, Massachusetts. For Texas, we are the 3rd worst state to move. Again, kind of what we talked about, overall affordability, all this other stuff that comes into play. And here's the good news. For going back to the home purchases we were talking about earlier, look at this. The percentages of people between the ages of 25 and 35 that are living with their parents. We haven't been this high of a percentage, and this is 2022. I don't know where 23 and 24 data is, but I'm sure it's still being compiled. But we are literally tied in 1940. I didn't know that many people were living at home in 1940, but apparently 1940, a lot of people like to live at home. You can see that trend got the lowest in the 70s, ticked up. You could call it 15%. So it's the highest. So that is the prime home buying age. So as affordability comes back with lower rates, you can see that there's a very good reason to stand that there's going to be a lot of folks, because while it may not seem like much, we're talking of Americans. So we're talking hundreds of millions of folks, guys. So that's a big number that can be back to home buying. Interesting. So if you haven't been following it, NAR, the realtors supposedly, they're not supposedly, they did. They found that the lawsuit said that they can't, it's just changing things. I won't go into it because that's not what the purpose is, but I thought it was interesting that the settlement, the average commission was 2.62, and it's now down to 2.55. I did not know that. So Austin has the highest, straight up at 3%. San Antonio at 2.9. So Texas, again, taking a lot of the winnings here. I don't know if it's a good thing or bad thing. And then one other thing I found interesting about buyers, about 40%, 38%. So about 40% of folks are saying they're going to wait till after the election. So it's 100 days, give or take, away from now to see who's winning. But they did make they distinguished the difference between veterans and civilians. I don't know why, but supposedly, I guess the veterans are more worried about the benefits of who wins the office. That's going to impact them as far as why they have a different point of view. So good for them. And finally, guys, dude, this poor guy. So Nicholas here, the Hermès heir, gave his financial person a lot of power and supposedly lost $13 billion of money because the guy just mismanaged his funds. So I don't know if he was totally doing anything illegal. I didn't quite gather all that from there, but he basically gave his financial guy or whoever's in control of it all the power, and 13B decided to disappear. And the other interesting part that actually officially got my attention on the headline was he was going to give half of it to his gardener. So imagine you're the gardener and you had about 6 or 7 billion coming at you and it's just gone. Not ideal. And guys, have been promoting Connor, my boy here. If you are in the real estate industry and you were listing homes, try this out. He's charging a whopping $1. So try it. You got nothing to lose but $1. He comes out and does a listing launch for you so you guys can get a taste of what he can do for business. I think it's amazing and great. And that is it, my friends. So, I love this one because I actually rewatched it because it was on TV. So I watched like the last 30 minutes of it. Taken. I always joke about it. If you haven't seen the movie, don't worry about it. But if you have seen it, you'll get the joke. I always imagine like, what if I was taken? They called my dad. He'd be like, man, good luck. Tell Mark I love him. So there you go. But I don't care when you bought a home. I will find you and refinance your mortgage. Rates are dropping. If you know somebody out there that needs to talk, yourself or anybody else that wants to run some numbers to see when it makes sense, this is the shameless plug. You can send them this information. Let us know what we can do to help. We want to help you. We want to help your friends. And with that, guys, as always, have a great and wonderful weekend. I know it was a long update, but I think it was worth it. Hope you agree.